Hi, this is Peter with Purpose Driven Survival. Today I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know when harvesting your garden. First steps. One of the biggest and most common issues with gardening is picking too early. It's easy to get excited about harvesting your own plants, but it is extremely important to be patient so that you can get the most out of your crop. Now, another common gardening mistake is overestimating the waiting time and being too patient. Your plant becomes ripe and then starts to deteriorate once it is past its prime picking time. This is another thing you do not want to do. In this video, we will be going over the proper time to harvest your plants so that you don't make these mistakes. There isn't one universal time to pick all your plants. All harvesting times vary among different plants and are unique. However, late summer to early fall is going to be the general time of year in which you will be harvesting your entire garden. You want to get all of your crops stored before late fall because the first frost is going to arrive before you know it. Tomato plants. When growing tomatoes, you want to keep a close eye on them. Sometimes they can be hard to find, and it may even seem like they're hiding from you. Make sure you don't miss any because you don't want them to become overripe. Something most people don't know is that tomatoes actually have a waiting period. And what I mean by that is that you don't pick them as soon as they become red. You want to pick them about 1 week after they have turned red. This is when they reach their full ripeness. While your ideal tomatoes are red, tomatoes of any kind won't survive the first frost. You want to harvest all of them before the first frost comes in, green and red alike. Now you may be asking yourself, what do I do with green tomatoes? Well, while you do not want overripe tomatoes, green tomatoes are usable. So here are a couple of your options. You can take them inside and let them ripen on your windowsill. Even though they aren't on the vine, they'll still turn red from the sun. Or you can actually eat them as they are by cooking them. You can make something such as fried green tomatoes. Zucchini and squash. The most important thing to remember when growing zucchini and squash is to watch the growth closely. You don't want to let them get too big, and we'll talk about the reasons for this in a second. Thoroughly and routinely checking. This is something that's very important to remember when growing zucchini and squash, because just like with tomatoes, they aren't always going to be easy to find. Why don't we want them to get big? Well, when zucchini and squash get too big, they become hard and they start to lose their flavor. The ideal size for zucchini and squash is 4 to 8 inches long and 1.5 inches in diameter. Once you see them reach this size, you're going to want to harvest them. Lettuce. Young leaf lettuce is just one kind of lettuce that many people like. What's so great about it is that you can pick it at any size that you want. You can pick it young while it's small, or you can let it mature and get bigger. Head lettuce is another common type of lettuce that many people use. However, it has a more particular harvesting date than young leaf lettuce. You know they're ready when you can press on the outside of the lettuce with your finger and it's slightly firm. You're going to want to pick it around this time so that it doesn't become overripe. Another thing to remember is to pick your lettuce before seed stalks form from underneath the plant. Carrots. Carrots are a challenge for some gardeners. They're a root vegetable, and this of course means that they grow underground. It can be difficult sometimes to know when the carrots are ready, so you're going to be relying on the tops and leaves of the plant, as well as the tiny bit of carrot that is sticking out of the ground for ideal harvesting time. Unlike most veggies, you're actually going to want to harvest the vegetable after the first light frost instead of before. When harvesting your carrots, be careful not to bruise them as this encourages rot. Beets. Now for beets, something very important is to remember to examine the surface closely. Beets emerge through the surface when they're ready, just like carrots. However, like all plants, they're going to be varying in sizes, so don't be alarmed if there are large ones or little ones. The general size of a beet is 1 inch to 1.5 inches across, so once they reach this size, you know they're ready. Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are unique because they grow on one main stem. Brussels sprouts are about 1 inch to 1.5 inches diameter once they have reached their full size. How do you harvest Brussels sprouts? They're very easy to harvest. Unlike some people may think, you do not cut them off of the stem. Instead, you grab, you twist, and you pull the Brussels sprouts off of the stem. Now, there's a known way to speed up growth, as with some other plants. You remove the unnecessary lower stem leaves that are keeping the nutrients from the actual fruit. That is, the Brussels sprouts themselves. Next, we have broccoli. You want to harvest broccoli when one big flower head has developed. For more to develop, you need to separate the head from the main stem, but not right under the flower head. Instead, cut it about 6 to 8 inches down. After you have done this, the plant will be able to form side heads. The side heads will develop on the remaining stem, and this is how you get a full broccoli harvest. Cauliflower. Cauliflower is similar to broccoli in many ways, but it is different in that it grows on the ground. Instead of separating cauliflower from its stem, you want to wrap it in its surrounding leaves once it has almost reached its full size. It should be harvested once it has reached its full size, and when it is smooth and white on the outside with fresh green leaves enveloping it. Bell peppers. Bell peppers come in many different colors, but that does not actually mean they are different in kind. This means that they are different stages of ripeness. Green peppers are actually peppers that are just not ripe yet. Regardless of color and ripeness, all peppers should be picked only at their full size, and then once it has reached its full size, harvest it once it has reached the desired color. For more colorful results, leave it on longer. Corn. Corn grows in the summer. It is ready to harvest at the peak of summer, and you'll be able to tell by the husk, silk, and kernels of the corn, which are going to be your main indicators of harvesting time. The husk and silk will turn brown and dry, and you're going to have full, bright, yellow kernels. One of the best ways to know that it is ready is not just to look at the corn, but to feel it. Through the husk, slightly apply pressure with one finger, and you should be able to feel the fresh firmness of the corn. Watermelon. Watermelons should be harvested at full size, but the full size of the watermelon does not always mean that it is big. Sizes actually vary for watermelons. So how do you know when it is the right size? The main sign of a ripe watermelon is the ground contact spot, the spot on the bottom of the watermelon that rested on the ground its whole growth cycle. The spot should be cream or yellow color, and the rind should be dark green. If you follow these steps correctly, and you harvest at the perfect time, the result will be a full, red, juicy, and sweet watermelon. Winter squash. Winter squash are completely different from summer squash. Summer squash are usually soft and juicy, and winter squash is usually much, much tougher. You should not even be able to penetrate the skin of the winter squash with your fingernail like you can with a summer squash. Just like watermelon, winter squash will have a contact spot, and just like watermelon, it will be the main sign that your fruit is ready. When you do harvest it, cut the vine, not the squash. Leave 2 to 3 inches of extra vine on the squash. This will help prevent rot and storage. Now, something else to note is that winter squash can actually survive a light frost, but they can't survive a heavy frost. This does not mean that you should leave them for the frost. All it means that if you accidentally leave them in the frost, they should be okay. As a general rule, once the first frost comes, harvest, or even before. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is Peter with Purpose Driven Survival, and you can find us at the links listed below. See you in the next one.